Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the Washington football team offense and what it's going to look like next season. Before we get started though, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow and I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, let's dive right into the video and I hope you enjoy. So in today's video, we're going to be going over this Washington football team offense and what to expect from them next season. But before we get started, let's talk about how they played last year and, kind of some of the changes. So obviously last year, their quarterback play was all over the place. They started Alex Smith, they started Dwayne Haskins, they started Kyle Allen, they started Taylor Heinicke. But in the regular season, when Alex Smith was on the field, they had their most success. Rushing wise, Antonio Gibson led them with 795 rushing yards. Receiving wise, Terry McLaurin led them with just over 1,100 receiving yards. But when we look at their, where they ranked compared to other teams in the NFL, which I will, as this thing continues to freeze, really annoying computer here. But where they ranked to other teams in the NFL, they were overall not a top half offense, right? They weren't a great offense. They weren't putting up a ton of points. But a large part of that was because at the end of the day, their quarterback play wasn't very consistent and it wasn't great. So they ranked 25th in total offense. They ranked in the passing game 25th too. And in the running game, they were about that too. They were actually 26th in the running game. So overall, not a great season offensively for this Washington football team. Remember, this Washington football team made the playoffs last year, mostly because of their defense and their strong defensive play. And then their offense was able to score just enough points to win them some games. So this year, it's going to be a little bit different from this Washington football team offense. For starters, they don't have Alex Smith anymore. They don't have Dwayne Haskins anymore. And at the end of the day, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's Taylor Heinicke, it's Kyle Allen as those quarterbacks. But the starter looks to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Fitzpatrick has played some meaningful football over the past few years. We've seen him in Miami. Last year, he led the Dolphins in passing yards. I think he threw 14 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, I believe was his stat line. But he's a guy that's not afraid to throw the football deep downfield. He's not afraid to throw the deep ball and to really make sure that that ball is being pushed deeper downfield. And we saw that in Miami last year, him versus Tua. Tua much more conservative. And in a way, Washington last year struggled because of some conservative quarterback play. Alex Smith really liked to take those short intermediate passing game and really work on that kind of shorter intermediate passing game and build off that, where Fitzpatrick is a guy who's much more likely to throw the ball downfield and try and find his targets and really make sure that he's pushing that ball down the field. So that's what you're going to expect from Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're going to expect to see that ball move downfield. In the running game though, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissic, I really like that 1-2 punch, but also Peyton Barber. We'll start with Antonio Gibson for now. Gibson was a great runner as well as a pass catcher for this Washington football team. He was drafted out of Memphis in the 3rd round last year as a receiver originally, but ended up getting moved to running back after the whole Darius Geis stuff. But last year he rushed for 795 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4.7 average yards per carry. And I saw a stat today that was like 96% of his rushes were for positive yardage, which is an absolute ludicrous stat. So this guy always moves forward. But, if you look at his pass catching too, 36 catches, 247 yards, no touchdowns, but he's a dynamic guy as a pass catcher and as a runner. Scored a lot of touchdowns for this team last year, and I would not be surprised if he ended up having 1,000 rushing yards last year and probably 8 or so rushing touchdowns. He was good in the red zone, good in short yardage situations, good on first down, and good as a pass catcher. He's a complete running back, and I think he adds a lot to this Washington offense. But also, you got to look at J.D. McKissic and Peyton Barber too. J.D. McKissic, much more of a pass catching guy, 3rd down back, was really good as a pass catcher, helped move that Washington football team offense deep downfield. And he was just using his speed, using his hands, and using his ability to catch balls out of the backfield to really be a change of pace back for this Washington team. And also Peyton Barber. Peyton Barber, much more of that, goal line guy, bigger running back, more compact guy, but really able to get those short yardage situations. So I like the mix of running backs that this Washington football team has. They've got a really balanced, running back room with Gibson as, a true complete back. You've got McKissic, much more of your passing back, you're more of your speed guy, and then you got Peyton Barber as your thumper. So overall, I like the mix of running backs in this running back room. In the wide receiver room, it all starts with Terry McLaurin, and Terry McLaurin was absolutely fantastic last year. Really, had a breakout season with 87 catches, tied for 17th in the league in that regard, just over 1,110 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns, was 13th in the league in receiving yards. So, this guy had a really good season. He also, I think, missed a few games too. But overall, what he was able to do using his speed, using his size, and using his playmaking ability was to push the ball downfield, really help that Washington football team offense, and really give them an elite star. Also, he shined as a leader too in the Washington locker room, and he really blossomed last season. We really saw Terry McLaurin take off, and I think that's really going to be an important piece for this Washington team moving forward. Their wide receiver situation last year, with McLaurin injured for a large part of the year, was pretty bad. Cam Sims, Steven Sims Jr. I thought those guys played okay, but at the end of the day, they weren't number one, number two receivers. McLaurin's going to have to lead this wide receiver group because after him, yeah, sure, they've got Curtis Samuel, sure, they've got Adam Humphries, but those guys aren't going to put a team on their back and really carry a team. Terry McLaurin has the ability to change a game, and that's what they need. That's what Washington's going to need from Terry McLaurin next season. So watch out for that if you're a Washington fan, but I think McLaurin will be able to be that elite receiver that they need him to be. And then you got to talk about Curtis Samuel. Remember, Curtis Samuel was brought over this offseason from the Carolina Panthers. Much more of a gadget player. He's a speed guy. You can use him in the running game, but he could also just do a variety of things. You could run him on jet sweeps. You could use his speed in the screen passing game. But overall, he's a gadget weapon who can run the underneath route, run the deep ball, and be an overall speed demon and speed threat for this Washington football team. He adds some juice to this team, and last year he was 25th in the league with 77 catches, 851 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. But more importantly, you got to remember that he was able to run the football a little bit, and you can see those numbers here. 41 rushing attempts, 200 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So he's much more than just a pass catcher, and you can line him up in so many different areas. The versatility is off the charts, and that's really going to help out this Washington football team, as they try to build a wide receiving core that has a little bit of everything. McLaurin's going to be your all-around elite guy. Curtis Samuel is your guy who can do a variety of things, but then you add Adam Humphries too as that slot receiver, that possession catch guy, that trusty receiver. 23 catches last year, 228 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Did struggle with a few injuries, but this is a guy that's capable of 650, 700 receiving yards as a slot receiver, as a guy who's going to move the chains on third down, and be a trusty guy for that Washington football team. And I think that he fits really well with what Ryan Fitzpatrick needs to do, because especially with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he likes to move that ball downfield, but also he's not afraid to take those checkdowns. And Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries are guys that can really utilize that underneath passing game and make some magic out of it, where McLaurin's much more of that 15 yards deeper downfield guy that uses his speed and his legs to really create an open space. But at the end of the day, if you just look at this wide receiving core as a whole, you see a little bit of everything. You see McLaurin as that elite receiver, the guy who can stretch the field, but also just make plays in the middle of the field. And you see Curtis Samuel as a gadget guy who's fast. He's really elusive in open space. You see Adam Humphries as a possession catch guy. You see Cam Sims as a bigger body receiver who can go up and catch the football a little bit, but uses his speed to be productive in the short passing game too. So you see a lot of different type of talent on this wide receiver core. So I think that's going to be a very successful part of this team moving forward. Remember, last year Cam Sims was their number 1 receiver for a large part of the season. So now they've added some more depth. They've added a little bit more talent, and they weren't afraid to splash the cash by bringing in Curtis Samuel. So at the end of the day, I think this wide receiving core is going to be better, and the offense is going to be better because of it too. But now at the tight end position, I think Logan Thomas had a really great year last year. 72 catches, 670 receiving yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. He really established himself as a top 12 tight end in the NFL. Really good pass catcher, using his big frame and basketball-like body to really be effective as a pass catcher. Really big for Alex Smith last year, really big for this Washington football team, really developed into that true number 2 pass catcher on this team. And I think he could still be the number 2 pass catcher on this team. I think that he might be the number 2 guy in front of Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries. But overall, I liked what Thomas was able to do, especially in the red zone, especially on third down situations, was really instrumental for this Washington football team, moving the ball deeper downfield. So I think that his impact and his development, remember, he is age 29, has come up on a little bit later in his career. But overall, I think that the weapons on this Washington football team for Ryan Fitzpatrick to use are better than the ones that he had in Miami last year and over the past few years. Sure, Devontae Parker was really good, and sure, McKissic was pretty solid too. But after them, Preston Williams wasn't great, and he was okay. But I think that there's a lot more talent here in Washington on the outside of the football than Fitzpatrick has been around in the past few seasons. So it's not just the running game, it's not just the wide receivers or the tight end, but it's really just the mix and all the different guys on this team here that really add a lot of different versatility to this offense. It's not just a true power running back in Antonio Gibson who can run between the tackles, who gets positive yardage, but he can also catch the ball in the backfield. There's just so much versatility to this offense that I think we're going to see a lot of motion. We're going to see a lot of speed from this team, but we're going to see a lot more offense, I think, in general. They're going to score touchdowns, and I think that's going to be a big part. But also, I mean, the offensive line, too. I don't think it's going to be that great. This offensive line has been it's been a top half offensive line for the past few seasons because of the play of Brandon Scherff at right guard, who is an elite all-pro caliber right guard. But, they brought back Ereck Flowers via trade to add some depth at left guard. They've got Wes Schweitzer. They've got Chase Roullier at center, who's a fine center. Really, for me, it's the tackle position for them. I don't love Charles Leno Jr. playing left tackle for them. They did bring in Sam Cosmi during the draft, who I think could, play at some point this season, maybe even at right tackle. I don't love Cornelius Lucas playing right tackle. I think the tackle position is probably the biggest concern for this Washington football team on the offensive side of the football, because I do like the interior of their offensive line. I don't think that there's really any problem with them, especially with Brandon Scherff, but I think it's the tackle position that they're going to look to improve. But overall, I mean, Charles Leno Jr., he's a fine veteran. Cornelius Lucas isn't that good, but overall, I like this Washington football team offense. I really do. I like the weapons they have. I like Fitzpatrick and his no-nonsense gunslinger mentality. And you know what? Maybe even we see Taylor Heinicke or Kyle Allen at some point this year, who both showed to be, capable starting quarterbacks at times last year. Remember, the running game is going to be better, I think, this season with another year of Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic and Peyton Barber. And I don't think the running game is going to be the focal point of this team. It's really going to be more the pass game, especially with Ryan Fitzpatrick and the weapons he has outside with Logan Thomas and Terry McLaurin. But I think this running game will get better. I do think that they added a little bit more depth on the O-line, so I think that will help in that regard too. Don't look for them to be, top half of the league in running the football, but I would not be surprised if they were much more close to average in throwing the football, and probably around 22nd, 21st in running the football, just because of the guys they added on this offense that are going to make the offense better. So if I had to guess about where they end up next year, I think the talent is there, and I think that this offense could be really, really good. Do I think that they're maybe a top 12 offense in the NFL? I don't think so, but somewhere between an average offense to top 18, maybe top 19 is very feasible, very possible. I think that at the end of the day, it is Ryan Fitzpatrick and his age, 40 season, so that scares me a little bit. And at the end of the day, too, I don't know how much that offensive line, especially the tackle position, will hold up, especially running the football. I think it's going to be much more of a pass-heavy offense, an offense that really relies on the passing game a lot more. But overall, I like what Fitzpatrick's going to bring. I think that his quarterback play is really going to help this team out. I would not be surprised to see this team as the 16th, 15th, 14th best offense in the NFL next year if they end up getting that big quarterback play from Fitzpatrick. It's really about, can Fitzpatrick, keep hold of the football? Can he cut down on the turnovers? That was a problem in Miami last year. But overall, I think if Fitzpatrick plays well, he's got the weapons around him and a solid enough offensive line for this offense to definitely improve and take a step forward next season. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.